Good evening and welcome into the Fighting Tater Show. My name is Lucas Gephardt. Alongside me today is Ryan Luke. And Ryan, been a while since we've done one of these, but we're in the middle of March Madness. So we got a lot to talk about here today. Just wrapping up boys state basketball tournaments. We're going to have the head coach of the boys basketball team over at Owyhee High School, Andy Harrington, join us in just a few minutes. A lot of basketball that we want to unpack, and we thought now, since we're through with our state tournaments and we have a little more time on our hands, maybe time to do another show. So I know we've spent a lot of time together, but since I've last seen you, which was less than a week ago, you've been doing good.
Hanging in there, man. Life comes at you fast with kids and sports
Yeah,
and life and travel and work and sports to follow, so I can make sure that I know what the heck's going on in life, because let's be honest, right? Sports are like the most important thing. Politics, who cares? We got sports.
yeah, we don't touch those here. Yeah, want to remind you guys to like, share, leave a comment as we get going here today. We are live on the IdahoSports.com Facebook page, YouTube channel, and X accounts. You can also find this show and any of our previous shows anywhere where you get and subscribe to your podcast, including Spotify or wherever the cool kids are getting podcasts these days. So I'm going to start with this. Earlier this afternoon, Boise State kind of keeping their uh, bubble hopes, tournament hopes alive. You know, that coming into the day, a lot of the media outlets have Boise State and San Diego State both right in that last four out, first four in kind of deal. And reading between the lines, that basically meant today was a playing game. Boise State wins that one. They play New Mexico tomorrow. That's a 7:30 tip Eastern, so 5:30 Mountain Time. Vegas has that at about 1.5 right now, so that should be another tight one. And I don't know about you, I still think that's a must win for Boise State.
Yeah,
ESPN got them the last four out, but you're seeing stuff that they're in now.
yeah, go ahead and share my screen. And so if you're watching, if you're not watching, we'll describe it. So CBS Sports, which does broadcast everything, has them as the first four in, but they have them in a playoff or they have them in the play-in game, the first four, with Xavier. And they have them in an 11 seed. And I don't know, it seems a little high to me, if you ask me. But I still think Boise State's a tournament team. I think their body of work merits them to get in. That being said, to your point, it almost does feel like a win. If not, then it's like hold your breath, cross your fingers, Boise State to get in. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're just the definition of a bubble team. If you Google what is a bubble team, the first link on Google is going to be Boise State. You know, I mean, they are right on the thick of this thing. But that's a big win. You know, San Diego State's a big name, obviously, and they've kind of struggled down the stretch of beating those big name teams in the Mountain West. Yeah, they got the win against Clemson, and had an opportunity to beat Utah State on the road. Did thump them when they were here, so that helped them out quite a bit. And then let the Colorado State game slip through their fingers too. So that was a big time win for Boise State. Elsewhere around the state, NAIA National Tournament going to get underway this weekend. College of Idaho, no surprise here. They're the top seed, number one seed. So that means if you're looking for some more basketball, head over to Caldwell. College of Idaho probably going to get two games at home as they host a 16 seed, and then they'll get the winner of the 8-9 seed as well, right there at the top of the bracket. Yoke's trying to go for another national title this year.
Yeah, they're looking for the natty. I was going to call that, but life happened. So you're going to have the pleasure of, if you don't go to the game, which you should go to the game, because the atmosphere is electric. It's fantastic college basketball. As a matter of fact, Jackson Rogers, a Owyhee guy, going to be playing at NAIA basketball for Coach Blaine. Next year, College of Idaho will get you, Andy, on that one. But then the other one, too, is Lewis and Clark State got an 8 seed, and they're going to be playing Spring Arbor from Michigan. So it's an 8-9 matchup on the other side.
Yeah, and LCSC, that was a matchup between them and CFI for the conference championship a few weeks ago as well. So be fun to watch those two Idaho teams go at it in the national spotlight for the NAIA. Hopefully Boise State can keep things alive as well. And then Big Sky tournament just wrapped up on Saturday as well. Montana State won at the buzzer. You see this? They won. Women's team won this game at the buzzer. I was at that game in person, and then Montana winning the men's side of it as well. We'll get into this with Andy as well, but Idaho finally wins a game in Boise in this Big Sky tournament, and they're by Jack Payne, who is obviously an Owyhee grad as well. So that's why we thought it'd be timely to bring Andy into this conversation. So, yeah, I don't know if you want to touch on that or not.
Let's go. Let's talk. I just want to talk to him, man. This is what we have more fun. People like listening to the guests that we have way more than they like us. That's
They don't
the
like
feedback.
us. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're nice guys and all, but like they think it's pretty cool that we get people coming on here. In fact, no lie, that's my feedback. My neighbor texts me, "Hey, when's your next interview? Who are you getting on?" So here we go.
Well, we got one right now, so let's go ahead and bring him in. It is Andy Harrington, the head basketball coach at Owyhee High School. Andy, congratulations once again. Another incredible year that you guys put together. Been a minute since you guys lost to an Idaho team. That continues this year. Ryan and I called your state championship on IdahoSports.com, and that was one I've been covering state tournaments for 10 years now, and that was by far the most dominant performance I've ever seen in a state championship game. So congrats to you, and thanks for jumping on with us.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, and great job calling the state tournament as always. It's always fun to hear you guys call those games.
So yeah, I do have a beef. You guys sandbagged the first 2 rounds, and you made us look like complete fools. No lie, we're out there. I'm like, man, Lake City has a shot. Why he struggles with a big down low, Luke Ngay, and he's not even a dominant, true post player. And Lake City has these two. And the next thing I know, it's like, 43-13 at halftime. I was like, well, I'm going to just go ahead and hang it up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we played our best those first 2 games for sure. We didn't shoot the ball particularly well, and obviously we made up for it that last night. But Bora and Timberline did a good job of slowing down the game. And in the Bora game, I could have probably done a better job of speeding it up sooner. I was worried about letting their shooters get open looks if we did that. I'd press Bora a lot sooner than I did. And in the Timberline game, we probably could have done it more, but I felt like we had them right where we wanted them. When we'd make our runs, we'd get it to a certain amount of points. And for us in the state tournament, we're just trying to win. We're not worried about winning by 30 or 25. Like, we want to win by 1 in advance. And so, I think that those teams had good game plans, and I think Lake City had a fine game plan. I think that they were willing to go toe-to-toe with us, and when that happens, the pace of the game gets really fast, and there's additional possessions to be had, and we found our rhythm really, really fast, and then it was just kind of an avalanche with the way that game went. But we were excited about that matchup just because obviously Lake City is well coached and has a ton of talent, but we knew that they were not going to milk the clock and slow it down and be really methodical with their possessions. We knew that they were going to shoot pretty early in the shot clock consistently, which I thought was to our advantage.
Yeah, I mean, can you talk about maybe the last couple weeks of the season? Because you and Boise was a team that I just loved coming into the tournament. I thought they're a super fun team to watch. I think they create a lot of mismatch nightmares, which we saw over that weekend. But they kind of play with you guys in the district championship. There's the Bora game, and then Timberline, was kind of playing with you guys as well. And then you guys just came out with that statement in the state championship game. So did you say anything different to your guys before that game, or what happened? It just seemed like a switch went off for you guys before that Lake City game.
I think it's always nice to play someone different. Like we play those guys quite a bit. Obviously, Timberline, we played district title last year, state championship last year. Boise High, like we just had played them. And Bora, we had honestly played one of our last games of the regular season too. So it's nice to play someone different, obviously for us and for them, because Lake City was super fresh for our guys, and I think obviously for them, we've been in that moment before. I mean, a lot of those guys had played in the state championship the previous year, or for Jackson and Cam, they played in 2 of those. And so I felt confident just in our shoot around. I had some friends that are coaching friends that aren't with our staff, but they're like, man, you guys are loose. Like, usually kids are pretty tight going into a state title, and you guys seem pretty confident, and it wasn't arrogance. It was more just, we've been in this moment enough times now where I felt like our guys were comfortable. So no speech, none of that. Just I think the experience was a huge advantage for us going into that game.
So a couple of observations. First of all, you've won a 4A title, a 5A title, and now a 6A title. Congratulations. No, but a couple of observations. Your coaching staff's huge. How many guys do you have on your staff?
Counting myself 8. Yeah, counting myself 8.
Wow. How many players?
We have 12 on varsity. We carried 15 for state. We brought 3 guys up. So, you know, try to want to focus on 2 guys each guy. If they take 2 guys, then we're in a good spot.
No, I'm saying that as a positive, because the more one-on-one, and I know this in terms of from coaching as well, but the more one-on-one time you get with a kid, the more impact you can have, the more they'll listen to you. It's not you preaching to everybody, right? You have, I don't know, you guys are positionless, but like position coach, really kind of doing it. And that's observation number 1. Number 2, you're one of the most fun people to watch on the sidelines. You and Marianne Blackwell from from Middleton are like the most. It's like a show unto itself on the sidelines. You just bring that passion and energy. Where does that come from? Have you always been that way, or is that? I mean, because hey, throw up that picture, Lucas. We got to show you something.
Yeah,
we dug deep. We found this, and this 6'2", buck 67. I don't remember the last time I weighed 167 pounds, but you played all the way through. So where does all this energy come from? I mean, is that you? Have you always been that way?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a player, I wasn't necessarily like that. Super competitive, growing up in a family where, you were kind of joking about sports or life. Like, that's kind of been our family growing up. My grandpa came to every game for us growing up. My dad was a middle school coach at North Junior High in Boise for football and basketball. So me and my brother and sister kind of just grew up in a gym playing football, basketball, baseball, all the way through high school. And so we're just super competitive. Like, losing kind of hurts more than winning sometimes. And so, that's just been kind of our mantra. And, Notre Dame football, and we lived through Bishop Kelly athletics growing up, never missed a state tournament, basketball game, baseball game, every Friday night football. So, yeah, man, I mean, it's just been a passion. Sports have been a passion for myself and our family for since I've been a kid.
So did you play? Who was the coach there when you were at ISU? Was that Bill Evans?
My first year, it was O'Brien, and then he got fired about halfway through the season, and then the next year, Bill Evans came in, and I was only there 2 years. But we had 3 coaches. Dean Martin was interim there for that end of that year, and then Bill got hired, and then I had the fortune of going up to U of I and was a manager, student assistant for Verlin for my last 2 years up there. So,
yeah. When I got there, it was Bill Evans, and then they hired Looney a year or 2 after I went there. But hey, ISU won a game in the Big Sky tournament last year. Your Vandals also won a game this year. Yeah,
about time.
Yeah. And you got one of your old players, Jack Payne, who led the way for him. That game against Portland State didn't come off the floor 40 minutes. That was for Colton Mitchell, or Jack Payne rather. But so Jack played 38 minutes. Colton played 40 minutes. And yeah, I mean, what's it like seeing those Idaho kids just ball out like they did and get Idaho a win? And for what all intents and purposes is a home away from home for U of I.
Yeah, and Titus here out too. Coach Jack and Titus with select basketball together. Titus was at 15 years old pretty dang good at basketball. He still is. But it was awesome to watch them win. Just you grow up and you want Idaho and Idaho State to have success. And, personally having that relationship specifically with Jack and Titus, like, I thought they both contributed in huge pieces to that game. And, Jack's really turned himself into a nice offensive player in the last 3 years. And so it's been awesome to watch. I hope they can continue to build on that with Prid and those guys, because they're recruiting Idaho really hard. They're constantly talking to Idaho kids across the state, and they're very active in the club scene with kids within our state. And so I think we have a ton of good players in our state, and I'm glad that they're getting involved with those guys, along with Idaho State and Jake O'Neill. That was awesome too. So
yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, and just the last few years, Idaho in general. I mean, Boise State, you have Julian Bowie, right, pokey kid that comes off the bench for them. You have Isaac Davis, who gets some minutes at Utah State now. So, what has it been like? And you're really, obviously, you're super involved because you coach a boys basketball team, but you're very involved in the club scene as well. So, how have you seen kind of the Idaho basketball scene develop, not only since they graduated, but kind of where is it going now too?
Yeah, and also Liam Campbell. Obviously, he's not playing right now.
Sure. Yeah,
he's on a pretty good team right now. But yeah, I mean the growth of our state as our state grows, more talented players are going to continue to come through it, and I think you're seeing that these kids are high level players that are getting more opportunities through club, through high school, to showcase how good they are. And I think coaches are starting to realize that there are some really good players in the state of Idaho, and they should be recruiting them. And, at one point I do remember, I don't feel like Idaho or Idaho State or Boise State were recruiting Idaho guys very much. And honestly, that was probably because of a lack of talent. But, I think our guys are being slept on, and I think it's getting better, and I think it's going to continue. I think we have a lot of good prospects within our state right now across those age groups. And, you have to have a balance as a college staff. You can't take 12 guys from LA or Texas or some of those homegrown guys that are tough, that are hard nosed. Like, those are key components to building a roster. And I think we've got those guys within our state.
You bring up a good point. In talking to some coaches, in high school coaches in baseball, football, and basketball, all of them said this influx of talent within, we'll call it the last, 5-6 years, has really made a difference. Quentin Michael, defense coordinator from Rocky, was on the show a little while ago, NFL guy, all pro guy, and he was just saying how amazed he is at the level and the IQ and the athleticism of these Idaho kids, the kids. And I feel like that's just been elevated. It's like the frog in that's getting boiled, right? As it gets hotter, they stand there, and I feel like the talent is just being raised all the way around. We see it in baseball. Baseball in Idaho is getting a lot better. But specifically, I would say basketball is, I think, where we're really starting to see. I get football too, because they're putting some recruits out there. But I would say basketball, and not really the big man play. I mean, post play is kind of tough. Jackson, we can talk about Jackson Rasmussen. Obviously, that's a tough one to lose, but it looks like you guys didn't even miss it. But not big man play. But I would say that guard through the 1 through 3 positions, the state of Idaho just produces.
Yeah, I think the skill level is increasing I think the awareness of just how to train, how to develop is becoming better. I think our clubs surrounding Idaho and also within our state are improving. I think we have really good high school coaches that are coaching these guys. And I think as we continue to get outside of our comfort zone and go play different people, which we're starting to see more and more of, I think that's going to expand our talent, because we're seeing the best. I mean, I watched Oregon State tournament today, and I was like, man, we're not that far away. We're not that far away in terms of our teams. I think a lot of our teams could compete with some of the teams that I watched just on the NFHS network today. So I'm excited, as the Valley and obviously East Idaho, North Idaho, they're all growing. So obviously kids are going to be in those spots, and hopefully we can keep them in our state.
Yeah, talk a little about this roster that you just had come through, and you lost a couple guys coming into this season too, but you still, coming into the year, have 6 guys that are either going to play college basketball or have already signed to play college basketball too, and it's at every level. 2 D1 kids, a Division II kid, NAIA, junior college. So I guess my question there is, number one, how do you manage those minutes when you have 6, when your first guy off the bench is a college basketball player, right? And number 2, how do they kind of feed off each other? How do you coach that? Because I've never seen that level of talent where it's that deep, and since I've been doing this in Idaho.
Yeah, no, I mean, number one, if you're not playing really, really hard all the time, then that's the number one way that you can get off the court. I think that it's an expectation. If you play as hard as you can, you're going to need a sub at some point. One of our assistant coaches does a really good job with our sub chart that we utilize. And obviously, if a guy hits a three, like we might keep him in longer, but we're trying to keep a firm rotation going through the game just to wear on the other team. But yeah, guys have to sacrifice. I mean, those guys are all really good players, and if you put them in different uniforms and gave them the ball, then their stats would go up. Their opportunity to score the ball and create would be at a higher level, and that's something that we're just constantly always preaching is play the right way, make the right play championship basketball. And I think you saw it from Bodie and Logan all the way down. Like Keith Sasser-Gunson is a talented kid that we're bringing off our bench. So, it's just the mentality that we're trying to create, and we're trying to give those guys opportunities to get exposure as well so coaches can see them during our season and during our summer.
Yeah, it was something that I know you talked about it with Bowden Howell. He's signed to play at Rice, Division I school in the American Conference. But you talked about he plays the system, and because of that, his numbers aren't as big as they could be. And so, I guess you could talk about that. And is that kind of how does your system work, and how does he fit into that system?
Yeah, I mean, we just want to play positionless basketball with a ton of motion concepts where we're making reads and not me standing there calling set after set, dictating their movements. Like, I want to put them into space and then they play. And obviously, we're trying to create quality, high percentage shots, rhythm threes, layups, free throws. And so those are our conversations a lot of the time is what is a high percentage shot? And it's hard for like a guy like Logan, right? Logan can get his shot off whenever the heck he wants. So a guy goes under his on ball at 28 on the shot clock and he rips it. And it's like, man, like I know you can make that, but we've had 3 straight possessions where we haven't scored. Yes, you work on that shot. Yes, you can make that shot, but let's get into the paint first and see if we can put pressure on the defense because they're set. And so just trying to build those habits and teach them how to play that way is the biggest thing. I think getting into the paint first and then shooting threes is what we try to emphasize. Obviously, in that state title, it just got kind of crazy and it was an avalanche. But yeah, I mean, Bodie could go out there and score 40 points a game. I mean, he shoots the craziest shots. He can make shots from any place on the floor. I've seen him do it. I've seen him do it at a high level. I mean, I saw him put 17 points in the first quarter on Gonzaga from DC and Oregon this winter, who is like a top 12 team in the country. So, he and all of those guys are sacrificing a little bit.
Okay, I got to ask this, and this is as a coach, shot selection. What's happened to the mid-range jump shot? I mean, you look at all of them, and it's a 3 or a layup, right? You talked about a paint or a 3 ball, and the mid-range jump shots is basically a lost art. You're shooting a mid-range, probably not the right shot.
Yeah, I mean, there's a time and a place for it. Like for us, a contested mid-range jump shot, like we can get whenever we want. And so we're just telling them like our verbiage is more, how do we get a layup? How do we get to the foul line? How do we shoot a rhythm 3? And not like a swing on the perimeter 3. Like we want to get an inside out extra pass 3. But I wouldn't say it's dead. I just would say that efficiency wise, like I watch games from high school all the way to the NBA, and I'm like, dude, that team just got outmatched. Like they made all those tough mid-range and they were winning. All of a sudden, the other team goes 3 ball, and now they're losing. And you're like, wow, like they've been playing so well, but they've been making difficult shots over the top of the defense, and it can just happen like that. So, I think there's a time and place. Under 10 in the shot clock, I'm like, Bodie, shoot it. You got to shoot it. We like 2-for-1s. That's the time when he can go get that. You saw that in the state championship in the first half. We're like, hey, 2-for-1. He got right to his dirt fade. So those are what we're telling them. I know every staff's different with that. And I know some old school people want to see more mid-range, but 3 minus 2 is 1. And that's an advantage sometimes. So
yeah, well, then you got to play the shot, the percentage, right? I mean, if you're hitting that mid range and you're shooting at 52, 53%, and then you're hitting at 42, 43%, the math still favors you to shoot the 3 ball. Yeah, absolutely. Kevin Young, BYU coach. I'm a BYU guy. You say you're Notre Dame guy. I'm a BYU guy.
Sure.
Kevin Young, he brings this NBA mentality, and his is 3-ball or paint shots. That's it. And you look at the shot selection, and that's exactly what it is. And you look at him right now, one of the hottest teams in the country. So it's tough to argue. It's tough to argue the math, like you said. It's tough to argue it.
Yeah.
That said, if you're wide open and you got a 15-footer, it's so hard to not pass that shot up.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, the reason that for us, it's like, why are you open in the mid range? Like, you should be on the perimeter. Like, when guys are standing at 15 feet, it takes away a gap for a guy to drive. And so for us, like, we want to stretch the defense out. And so when you're open from there, sometimes I'm like, man, how the hell is that guy at 12 feet open right there? Like, of course he's got to shoot it, but should he be standing there? You watch BYU today, and that floor they got guys in the corners at all times. I mean, they have really high level spacing. So
yeah, I want to go back to kind of touching on some of these players that not only have played for you, but that you've seen on the club circuit around the state. I think, Jordan Carlson, going back to Lake City, another Lake City guy that Ryan and I both think has a real bright future. 6.5 feet, can shoot the three, has a nice mid-range game. One of the few apparently that still have that, right?
Yeah.
You talk about him and then some other players that around the state. Nash Humphrey's a kid that we haven't touched on. He's going to Boise State, right? Just some kids that you've seen around the state that you think have some real potential at the next level.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan, for sure. I had the privilege of coaching Jordan last spring and summer with club, and I'm super excited to watch where he's going to go. The ball just wants to go in the hoop when he shoots it. I mean, he has amazing touch. He's still growing, even scouting them, watching their game versus Thunder Ridge and whatnot. Like, when he gets hit off his course, like, you can just see that extra little balance thing where it's like, oh man, like, he's still growing. Like, his balance is taking him off right there. So, once his body and his physicality can match his skill, man, the sky's the limit with him. And he's a tireless worker. He works his butt off. He's always in the gym. Basketball family. His mom and dad were the coaches at North Idaho for women's for a long time. His sister, 6'3", 6'4", played at Idaho. So I'm really excited to see where he goes. He's got a ton of potential. Nash, obviously, obviously he's graduating, going on a mission. You hear things about guys during the state tournament. I heard it with Liam last year, and it's like, he's not having the best state tournament. Is he going to play at Boise State? And I'm just like, man, Nash is getting everyone's first, second, and third punch. Like, no disrespect to Madison this year, but they would not be where they were without Nash Humphreys. And I think when you surround Nash with high level guys, and I've seen Nash play in Boise State Open Gym with those guys, like, Nash is going to get to a level that he'll be playing with really good players, and he won't have to shoot those 30-foot threes. He can come off an on ball, and if they double him or they hard gap him, that's a 3-ball for Julian Bowie in that corner. And so I think his upside is going to be just fine. I think he's going to be a really good player for Boise State. Trying to think of younger guys within our state right now. If you guys point a few out, I could easily jump in on them.
Well, I do want to make one comment. You talked about Nash getting the best from whatever. Eli Rich, and you had the chance to face him a few times. Yeah. That kid is, in terms of athleticism, is like unbelievable on the defensive end of the floor. He's a football guy. I get that, or even a track guy. I don't care. But talk a little bit about him and his defensive prowess.
Yeah, he's a good. Our guys were after our district championship. Bodie was talking all about him all week. He's like, man, like, that guy's underrated. Like, that guy came out of nowhere. He is really fast. He's really strong. He's one of those guys that the reason Boise High was a tough matchup for us is because they could get underneath of us. And he's a guy that can guard bigger guys because he's so strong and built to the ground and laterally quick that he can cut you off and jam you.
Yeah.
And I think that was our advantage with Lake City, honestly, is we could do that to them. Yeah, I mean, super impressed with him. I've heard he's a big-time track guy. Heard he runs a big-time 40. I haven't seen him on the football field, but it doesn't surprise me if he's good at football. And shout out to that Boise High team. Like, they came out of nowhere. They were 3 minutes from not making our district tournament against Rocky Mountain, and all of a sudden, like, we're down 1 going into the fourth quarter against them in the district tournament. And I'm like, these guys are pretty good. They got some players that can play. So, yeah, I mean, he's a good player, but a lot of those guys are.
Yeah. And what about some of the guys that you have coached that are now playing at the next level? Guys like you mentioned Liam Campbell, mentioned guys like Jack Payne. Obviously, they're in the first couple years because you guys have only been at school for 4 years.
Yeah.
So there's, we're still looking at, some younger guys at the college level, but let's start with Liam. Like, what do you think his potential is at St. Mary's?
I think it's a great fit. Liam's in a perfect position for him. Like, Liam is a very underrated defender. Smarts, can guard, has a true 2 position that he can guard positionally and laterally. St. Mary's, Liam is slotted to play the 1 through the 3 for them. And like, their point guard is the player of the year. He plays all 40 minutes. Their 3-man plays 38 out of 40 minutes a game for them. So, and those guys are both 6-year guys. I think he's in the perfect development system for him to continue to learn and get better. But they're all about the tough dudes. And Liam is a tough dude that he's not taking shortcuts. My walk-on redshirt year at Idaho State, I don't know if I was in the gym as much as I should have been. I know Liam's probably in the gym way too much, and they have to pull him out. We had to do that at Owyhee at one point. So, I know he's taking advantage of those reps, and I'm excited to see him get his opportunity there.
Yeah. And what do you know, because he was going to USC, and now, going to the St. Mary's, obviously. So when those big shiny offers come in, what is that like for some of those kids? At the time, Pac-12 then turns into a Big Ten offer.
Yeah.
It's got to be exciting when those big ones come in.
For sure. My cat wants to get involved. It's pretty crazy. I mean, Liam got that offer his sophomore year. Andy Enfield was sitting at half court of our game at the Damien at 9 freaking in the morning, and Liam put 35 on a guy that they had offered. And I think that, I thought USC was a great fit. Like, USC is a great school, obviously. USC's flashy. It's Los Angeles. Personally for me, I always like St. Mary's just because I think Liam's a blue-collar guy, and that would be the better fit for him. But I think that kids right now and parents, I just think that they're worried about the wrong things, and I think fit is the number one most important thing that a kid can make a decision on, and not what the best thing you can put on social media is. And not saying that Liam did that. He didn't. His parents are very informed. But going to a lower level, but being able to play and contribute with a coach that believes in you is much better than going to a higher level and just sitting the bench and just being a guy there. And you see that all the way from the College of Idaho guys. They have guys that are picking them over sometimes higher levels because they want to go win a championship. They want to play for Colby, and they want to play. And so, I think that the fit piece is the piece that sometimes people, and you see it in club. I have conversations all the time about, well, I want to be on the top team. Well, I want to coach Duke, but like, that's not the best fit for you. You need to be in a position where you're going to play. This other guy is 3 inches taller than you. He can dunk the ball with both hands, and he shoots 40 plus from 3. That's why he's on the top team. Like, it's no disrespect to you. You're an NAI guy. He's going to play at Boise State. And that's just the difference that I think people are too worried about right now.
Well, what about Jackson Rogers? I mean, he's going to go play for Coach Blaine. How about fit-wise? Did you have any influence on that?
Yeah, I mean, Jackson, that was all Jackson. I mean, Colby coaches for select basketball. Colby coached Jackson play his 16U year with select. And Jackson is a guy that, people I think tend to take for granted because he's not flashy. He's not scoring 25 in a game, but he makes game-winning plays across the floor. I don't know if you guys remember this, but in our state semifinal game against Madison, which in my opinion, Madison was the second best team in the state last year.
Agreed.
Like, Jackson had 8 offensive rebounds in that game, and he picked up Barrett Wilson 94 feet and dogged him the entire game. And for me as a coach, like coaching Jackson for 4 years, I never had to tell him it more than once. If I tell the team, this is what we're doing, he does it. He knows every spot on the floor. He doesn't need the ball to contribute to winning. And I think that that's another thing that people are getting caught up is, well, I average 18 a game. Why am I not getting that same opportunity? It's like, well, they're not just going to give you the keys to the kingdom. They need guys that aren't going to shoot every time or dribble the ball, that are going to go guard and freaking offensive rebound the entire game. And that's what I think he's going to do for them.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, because during the tournament, obviously he played defense. He did what he was doing in your first 2 games. And I remember I looked over at Lucas. I'm like, man, Jackson Rogers, like, what's going on? And then he goes off. Right.
Yeah.
In his moment, he went off and he knocked down some big 3 balls. He came up with some steals and some rebounds. And I was just like, okay, well, there he is. That's the reason the guy's going to go play at the next level.
Yeah. 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 He's a winner, and that's where coaches want to. The coaches that are having success and winning are recruiting winners. They're not recruiting stats or whatever else. Like, I haven't had a single coach ever call me about points per game or assists per game. Like, they see them, they like them, they confirm with me or whoever, and then they move forward. Jackson averaged like 6 points a game this year.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a little bit about that. How involved do college coaches, do they contact you? I can tell you the football side, I do a lot more football recruiting than basketball, but is there a lot of conversation with you? Do they get your opinion, or do they just come out of the blue?
It's like Clint, my boss, always says it's like I'm a matchmaker. Like, we put them in front of coaches, we play the game, and then if they like them, then obviously we talk. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where it goes. It's like, I might say, hey, watch number 3. Watch this kid today, because they're at the game. But it's nothing crazy. It's not. We try not to oversell our guys, because we don't want to put them in a position where a coach doesn't believe in them. And so when that coach likes them, if we think that it's the right fit, then of course we're like, yeah, hey, here we go. Like, this is what we're seeing. But yeah, no, coaches are consistently asking those questions, whether it's high school or club, and just having such a big presence in the club scene for us. Like, we get calls on kids all the time,
Yeah, you can talk a little bit about the Idaho select structure. You mentioned Clint. Through my day job, I've met him a few times. We don't work a whole lot with him, but talk about the youth circuit here locally. We'd probably do more if we had a bigger indoor sport facility. Maybe if we'll get one of these days, hopefully. But you guys, I feel like we do a pretty good job here of hosting tournaments with the little infrastructure that we have, and it's set up kind of through those high school gyms. Meridian Home Court does some stuff. TVAC obviously gets involved, but you guys host. It's on the club side, but it's on the high school side. You guys host a tournament every year. That was kind of something that you guys kind of created to try to get some of the top teams into this area.
Yeah. And are you talking club, or are you talking the Pro Image Sports Holiday Classic?
Both. Yeah.
Yeah. From a club standpoint, like, you got to go where the coaches are going to go. And unfortunately, in our state, there's only so many schools in our state. And so going to a Los Angeles, going to a Phoenix, going to or outside of Texas, like, just it's gotten to the point for coaches where they've got to go where they can all be in the same area, and they only have so much time, and they can only go out so many weekends. And so we found a circuit that has exposure, and we go there, and obviously it's convenient for coaches because all of our teams are playing in that gym. Whereas, we do have one local tournament here, the MPI, and that's really strong. It's not a live period. It's more NAI D2 coaches in the Northwest, D3. But you got to put yourself in a position where coaches can see you, and anymore, like, there got to be a lot of talented kids there from across the Northwest, the West, whatever, because coaches don't have time to jump around to these other gyms. Like, they got to go to one spot and watch those guys. For our Pro Image Sports Holiday Classic, we've just been we just want to bring in the best teams that we can bring in. We just got Jay Sarah out of California to commit for this upcoming year. But, like, we just want to bring the best teams to Idaho to get them to Idaho to see this area, but also to increase, like, the understanding of what's out there. Because I think a lot of people think of high level basketball, and they're a little misguided on that, you know. And I think when you see like a Corona Centennial in here with the guy that's starting for Arizona playing Kansas on the TV right now, you're like, oh wow, I thought I was pretty good. That's a whole different level that I'm not used to, you know. So that's been our goal with that, is just to kind of like let the Valley and state see outside of what is in Idaho, you know.
You know, I make a big argument. I make a big argument. Like in football, they don't do it enough. And again, talking to some of the coaches, they don't do enough. They're starting to bring in some, I think Rocky hosts that thing that they do. But you guys have done that. You stepped outside of the state and you played some top talent. In fact, that was part of our talk that we talked about in every broadcast during the tournament, was the fact that you guys were battle tested amongst these top tier schools.
Yep.
Like you said, oh, that guy's the next level. Again, we know that you guys can compete. I mean, I don't know where you rank nationally, but I do have a funny story. One of my, and you don't have to comment on this, but one of my coworkers, he lives in Milwaukee, and he's just this massive basketball fan, and he thinks the WNBA team would smoke a high school team. And I said, no, I guarantee you, Owyhee High School. He's like, who's this Owyhee? Blah, blah. I said, Owyhee High School would rip a new one. And I tell you, because when I was in high school, I was a freshman basketball. We played the girls basketball team, the varsity, and they went to the state championship game, and we beat them like 65-16, and they scored 16 because we were freshmen. We were like, oh, they're putting a body on us. This is weird. But anyway, getting back to the subject, which is great basketball. You bring these teams in from the outside. What does that look like? How's that going to help? And then can you see, is there a level difference? You know, obviously you guys hung with a bunch of them. Yeah. And you went and played a bunch of them. Just your general thoughts on these outside teams and Idaho needing to continue to do that.
Yeah, I think we need to get uncomfortable. Like, I think sometimes losing is the best thing for you. You know, if you're winning every game by 30 points, that's not a reality. There's someone that's bigger and better out there. And you know, we love when we lose. We used to hate when we lose, but we kind of joke about it. We're like, oh, now when this guy doesn't want to block out consistently, I can show him the film of the guy jumping over him and dunking the ball to show him why we need to block out consistently. And so I think it just exposes our kids to the speed, the size, the length, the athleticism, the skill, that it's like, dude, you might be the big bad wolf over here in Meridian, but you're not the big bad wolf in this country. There's a whole world out there of high level players, and this is where we need to get to. And that's always our conversations, is like, man, that might work. That's a we didn't want to dribble. We didn't want to pass the ball this possession, and we just shot. Oh, it went in. We'll see how that goes when we play Harvard Westlake with their guy going to Duke, you know, and that's most of the time what we're telling our guys. And I think that's the best way for them to relate to that. And I think and teams are doing it, credit to them. They're going to Vegas. They're going to, you know, wherever, and they're getting outside their comfort zone. The more that all of our kids can see that high level, then they can come back and train for that level instead of what's here. So
what would you say was Harvard Westlake is, you know, one of the best teams in the country, right? But is there any other team that you guys played this year or any other year that kind of really stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, we did play at Montverde with that team, Cooper Flagg and all those guys. And that was an eye-opening experience for sure. Just they had like guys going to Duke, Oregon, and I think Kansas coming off their bench. Wow. And we were down 8 points at the half. You know, we were hanging in. We ended up losing by, I think, 29. But, like, that team was that team. And then I would say Gonzaga from D.C. Like, and there's levels to it. Montford's the best team we've seen. I mean, by far. And obviously they were the national champions. So they were the best team in the country. But I think they could have beaten some Big Sky teams, as crazy as that sounds.
Oh, so.
Wow.
I mean, wow. Cooper Flagg, you know, Maryland's best player. They're big. Georgia's best player right now. Like Liam McNeely at UConn. I mean, you go down the list, like these guys are going to play in the NBA. So,
wow. Okay, I like it.
Thank you word for it. Yeah,
it was fun. We got our butt kicked, but it was a good experience.
I gotta have it though. You gotta have it. Okay. Question for you. You were an assistant at College of Idaho, right? For a year. How many years? Mm-hmm. 1 or 2?
Just one. Just the one.
Aspirations for you. College level, beyond. Is there anything? I know you love Idaho. You're an Idaho guy. And I'm not saying this is not
Yeah.
indicting you. This is not saying you're leaving
Yeah.
tomorrow or anything like that. But we'll talk about, if you get a job interview, it's like, what's your 5-year goal? What's your 10-year plan kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I mean, when we took Owyhee, our goal as a staff was to continue to raise the level of Idaho basketball. Coaching the college game, I love that I learned so much from Scott Garson and Colby Blaine in that year. But I also saw the grind of being a college basketball coach and the travel and the picking up recruits from, on a Wednesday night at 9:00 at night. And so, for me, like I do want to have a family. My wife has an amazing job in the Boise area. And so, for us, like we just want to continue to raise the level of Idaho high school basketball for both high school and club. And that's been my goal. And never say never with like opportunities, but our plan is to continue to raise Owyhee as high as we can and compete at a national level. That's been the goal for a while now.
I've always said that if I could have a do-over, I'd be a high school basketball coach. That would be, because like you said, right, the grind is a little bit different. You have this kids in this geographic area that you work with, and like you said as well, 12 kids, maybe 15 you're expanding the roster, but that's what you're working with. I love football, but that's like 100 kids that you have to deal with, versus the 12 as a high school basketball coach.
Yeah, and there's a balance. Like it's not. I've seen so many college coaches, like even being a manager at Idaho, like, I mean, and Cole, see if I wasn't like this, but I mean, they're playing the game. They're watching film till 3 a.m. And I'm like, man, like, unless I'm my own head coach, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do all this like this in Moscow, Idaho. God bless Moscow. I had a ton of fun when I was up there, but I'm not trying to live in Moscow and be grinding 75 hours a week, like that. So.
Yeah, seems like it's a pretty good setup for you right now.
Yeah.
Well, and let's be honest, everybody loves having a Yankees. Like you've got to have the villain, right? You guys kind of play that role a little bit, right? Not in a bad way, not in an evil way, but hey, if you can knock Owyhee off, right, you've gone somewhere. And like you said, last year Madison was right there. They like you said, were probably the second best team. Boise had a couple of shots at you. I thought Lake City had a shot at you. I'm sorry.
I heard. I listened to that precast.
And then Timberline does some great things there. They'll grind you. It's Lucas and I will call those games and we're like, what just happened, right? Like there's nothing explosive. They just play so grindy basketball that
you just look up and it's a 5-point game in the fourth.
Yeah.
Like, how did they do this?
Yeah, when you're playing Timberline, you're like, if you're up 7, it's really 14. If you're down 7, you're in big trouble. Like it's like playing a triple option. You better freaking steal a possession or two.
That's a great point. But anyway, to my point, which is it's good to have a top team that everybody's gunning for. It is. BK has that in football every year. You beat BK and you're the 5A level and you just won the national championship. So
sure.
I do enjoy having a top tier team in the state of Idaho.
Sure. And our kids feed on that. We feel that. We feel that for sure when we're going into a Tuesday night game in the SIC. Like it's not a Tuesday night game. It's a freaking championship game that we got to be ready for because that team and that staff is going to be locked in, and their crowd's engaged. And here's some crazy stuff during some of those games. We heard some crazy stuff during the state tournament, but you want to be that. You want that challenge. If you're a competitor, you want the opportunity for everyone in the gym to want you to lose. And it's us and our crowd versus that entire crowd. And saw that a little bit with Bora. Saw some of the other teams cheering for them when they hit that 3. But you want it that way. Duke gets that too. So.
Yeah. Well, hey, want to close here with this. I know when you and I were texting, I want to give you a platform here. Had some issues with some of our all tournament teams that Ryan and I selected at the 6A level. So here's your platform.
No, listen, all those awards, I hate awards because they're subjective. Everyone has an opinion and everyone's intent for an award is different. I personally thought my guy Jay Allen was the best defensive player in the tournament. But I understood why you picked Eli. He's a very good defender too. But I just, watching what Reese did in the semifinal, and then watching Jace do what he did in that championship, I was like, man, like Jace Allen is a high level defender now. So,
Yeah.
but I totally get it. It's all good.
And Jace Allen, like if we had a spark plug award, he would have won that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we went. I mean, like full transparency, we went. In fact, you could see but we were going back with Jace Allen. Like, what do we do with this? And it's tough because part of the curriculum that we have to go by is every team needs one player on the 1 through
the
1 through 3 or whatever. And what he was doing, it was more based on what he did versus Nash. What Eli did versus Nash in that first round, which knocked Madison into the consolation bracket. It was based off of that and just the momentum they were playing with. But yeah, I mean, dude, Jace Allen, and he did some things like the spark plug, like the dunk so Watson came up through the rim and blocked that. And here's the thing, Watson probably saved a little bit, like 15 points, because if that would have gone down, you guys would have had crazy, even more momentum, it would have gone off the hook. So, some of those types of plays I totally see. Yeah, he's definitely a great candidate.
And it's hard. It's subjective. All those awards are always like that. So, you guys do a great job, though. I listen to all of them. I listened after Bora, I listened after Timberline, and I know those weren't the prettiest games. And I hope we got you back for that championship for a little bit. So.
Yeah, I mean, if we were saying anything after Bora or Timberline, championship was impressive.
Yeah,
to say the least.
And I still feel like you sandbagged it, but whatever. I bet you can take that. You can take that to the grave, man. Like whatever you're doing.
Sure. No, for sure.
But, well, hey, Andy, anything else you want to touch on? Don't want to keep you all night. So
No, I mean, this was fun. If you guys ever need anything, let me know, and keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate IdahoSports.com, and however we can continue to just make the state as high level as we can, we got to do. So you guys are helping that, and appreciate your time, and always fun. So
yeah, appreciate you jumping on. You're welcome back anytime. This was fun.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
All right.
That was Andy Harrington, head coach for the Owyhee boys basketball team. Fun conversation with him. What'd you think?
Oh, it's great. I mean, I love hearing it from the horse's mouth, right? We can pontificate or we can do whatever and think it's like, well, it's this, and that. But then to hear from the horse's mouth, like the mid-range jump shot, you remember the broadcast? I'm like, it's a dying art. And he's like, yeah, but if you're open at 15 feet, why wouldn't you be open at 23 feet, right? Like, makes sense, And so hearing those types of things from the coaches, it's always, I think, priceless. And, to all those who are listening, this is going to be, preached along a couple. It's almost like the game of telephone. Well, Coach Harrington said, and then this person said. So it was great.
Yeah,
it's great stuff.
I will say this was by far the most comments we have ever gotten on one of our live shows that we've done. So appreciate all you guys chipping in. We're trying to push them up onto the screen as much as we can. That's gonna about do it for us here tonight. So again, if you listen to any one of our other shows, you can go back and listen to those on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, or on IdahoSports.com even. We did a lot of football talk in the fall, but I think we're going to talk a lot of basketball here in the next few weeks. Boise State trying to make a tournament, trying to make the big dance. Keep an eye on College of Idaho as well, one of the top seeds in the NAIA. And hopefully we can get a guest or two from the Yote fam over there in the next week or so.
It'd be good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So he's Ryan Luke. My name is Lucas Gephardt. Thanks for watching the Fighting Taters here tonight, and we will see you next time.